a 3-2 win for the Edmonton Oilers. Almost looked like we were going overtime there in Edmonton, but in the end, not enough from the Vancouver Canucks as the Oilers take Game 4 at home.
Yeah, Arfin, as you can see, we blew our budget on flights and hotels. That the backdrop, again, kind of like Nashville, not the most spectacular, but we've got solid Wi-Fi, we've got a good connection, and we've got a lot to get into, obviously. Yeah. Absolute kick in the junk for the Vancouver Canucks, who were not very good for much of this night. But as we've seen throughout these playoffs, his ability to battle back, but that's such a dangerous game to play because you're not always going to finish the job, and that was the case here. So credit to them. They don't go quietly. They don't quit, but you're playing uphill and just way too passive on the winning goal. And boy, that's as low as I've seen JT Miller after a game. He took a lot of that on himself, blamed himself for not filling the shooting lane, not blocking the Evan Bouchard shot. And again, they were just too compact around Artur Silovs and then ultimately screening their own goaltender. And so where it looked like overtime was almost a natural at that stage, you got to play to the final buzzer, and they didn't, and stood around and watched the Edmonton Oilers. But that was kind of the story of the night, that they stood and watched the Oilers, certainly in the first period, just seemed reluctant to get involved. They were second to almost every puck in the opening period, and JT was upset. Rick Tocchet, seething at the podium here, said he had a bunch of passengers, reiterated what he said many times after losses, needs 5 or 6 guys going. That's generally code for, I need a whole lot more from Elias Pettersson. Somebody pressed him on Pettersson himself, and he said, yeah, I don't know what else to say. He's basically, like the fan base here, I think, is kind of reaching, that point where nobody has any answers. Yes, Petey dug in and won a face-off, and so for that, but there are 60 minutes of hockey, and it's just not happening. And, I didn't like the idea of starting the game with Sam Lafferty on the wing. Like, Sam Lafferty is not a top 6 forward. I think put that experiment to bed. I get that Rick Tocchet's hands are tied to some degree, but on a night when offense was hard to come by, you had a 24 goal scorer sitting in the press box. You'd scratched him the other night. I would have been in favor of reinserting Nils Höglander, who I know hasn't had a great playoff to this point, but still represents the idea of offense certainly more than Sam Lafferty does, more than Ilya Mikheyev. And it was interesting that Tocchet, when he talked about passengers, there was a follow-up question about, you've got healthy bodies here, are you contemplating changes? And he said yes. A lot of times I think a coach would say, hey, we'll think on it, we'll go and watch video, whatever. He basically just said yes. So does that mean an opening for Höglander? Does it mean Vasily Podkolzin gets his opportunity in these Stanley Cup playoffs? Because Mikheyev was ice cold yet again. Lafferty, no shot attempts, and Nils Amon, who you don't expect a lot of offense from, but he didn't do an awful lot in this hockey game either. So, there were some plays. Obviously, I look at this night, that first period power play.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into you with.
I wanted to barf watching that thing. There's just way too much talent to go 3 minutes and 10 seconds before you even get a shot on goal. And when you do, it's kind of poked to the front of the net, and Connor Garland's in there trying to dig after it. And that was another area, Tocchet basically just shaking his head. Like, he said, like, guys just have to want it more. You can drop the X's and O's. You can have all the meetings and video sessions you want. When you get the power play opportunities, especially against this Edmonton team, they had already scored a power play goal. It was there on a silver platter, 6 minutes of power play time in the first period, and they do nothing with it. So, you don't tire out the Oilers. You don't take the crowd out of it. You don't generate any kind of momentum. And in a lot of ways, the Canucks were fortunate to get out of the first period at 1-0, even with 6 minutes of power play time. So, it kind of feels like back to the drawing board with the man advantage, and we'll see what happens. Things boil down to a best of 5 now. At some point, you think that the Canucks power play is going to have to win them a game, the way that the Oilers power play continues to hum along now at 5 for 10 in this series. And even though the Canucks were disciplined again, just 2 power plays, they cash in on one of them. It's Leon Draisaitl from his office there at the side of the net, and power, in a 1-goal game, Oilers win the special teams battle. They win the hockey game.
Thanks for watching this video. For more great content from Canucks Army, check out Sakaris and Price, Rink Wide Vancouver, or our show, Canucks Conversation. We're your one-stop shop for interviews, breaking news, and a live Canucks postgame show hosted by Jeff Patterson.